Welcome back to part two of Overrated or Underrated with the AFC. We already did that. We're going to NFC here. We got Elite Takes on once again for part two. Tailgate, as always, and myself. So I wrote down 11 teams that I want to talk about from the NFC, overrated, underrated, rated right. Let's start with the controversial division, the NFC West. We got to talk about all four of those teams. I say we started off with the 49ers. Whoever wants to take it away.
I think they are slightly underrated. I think beginning of the offseason, they were overrated. And I just don't think anybody's talking about them. I think they've completely just kind of like flown under the radar. And I know last podcast we talked about, lot of teams like the Broncos and the Chargers who had injuries on defense, and now they're hoping to get them back and they'll return back to top 10, top 5 defense in the league. And I think that does apply to San Fran this year, and more so honestly on the offensive end. I mean, you lost Deebo Samuel for almost half the season. Obviously, you lost George Kittle for a good amount. Jimmy Garoppolo, say what you want about him, but he was gone for, I think, a quarter or half the season. So they had injuries all around at a lot of important positions. But I think if they can just stay healthy, I know it's a competitive division, but I think when they're fully healthy, they're better than the Cardinals. And I think they can contend for playoff spot. So I'm gonna say if their bar is like borderline playoff spot, I'll say they're slightly underrated because I think that they will be a playoff team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that they are a playoff team. Now, I will say, talking about how much guys got injured, I did kind of punish the Broncos for that, so I'm not going to completely go the other way, but I would say that they had an okay draft. Trey Lance is exciting. He could definitely be their guy, but he's probably the most risky quarterback they could have taken. But they have a great offense, and I do think that I don't expect guys like George Kittle to miss as many games as they did last year, because I don't think the injuries he had are like signs of being injury prone. I think those were just kind of incidents. And their defense is great. I'd like to see them re-sign Richard Sherman, to be honest. I think that would make me a little higher on them, because Richard Sherman is still pretty good, and he was a big part of, their defense when they made the Super Bowl, and I still think he's a pretty solid corner. So, yeah, I think they're a good team. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. I definitely trust him a lot. So, yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs. I think that they're a little maybe underrated. I don't know if I quite see them as contenders, but no, they could win a few games in the playoffs. I could totally see that.
Okay.
I think they're a little bit between overrated and rated right, more towards kind of the overrated, just because I was making a face when Tailgate said, like, nobody's talking about them. I personally hear a lot of people, like, saying they could win that division.
I thought it was
or, like,
a few months ago, like before the draft.
I hear a lot of 49ers hype.
I don't know.
I guess it's just what we see on our For You page or whatever, but yeah, I do think they're a playoff team, though. I do wonder, though, if they were in the AFC, would they be a playoff team? That's kind of close, but the NFC is not as stacked as the AFC, so I do think they will be in the playoffs.
I think it cancels out because yes, the AFC is more competitive, but they wouldn't be in as a competitive division as they're in the NFC. So I think it kind of cancels out.
I do think people are overrating their defense a little bit, though. I think people think they're just going to have this elite top 5 defense next year. I do think it'll be like borderline top 10. It's going to be a great defense. I still have questions on offense, though, particularly the quarterback. I've never been a big Jimmy G guy. I did go through my quarterback rankings yesterday, made my top 32. He was at 20 or 21. It just, the fact that they traded up so much to take Trey Lance, they clearly don't believe in him. And I don't think they're going to go to Trey Lance right away. They're going to start with Jimmy G. It just kind of reminds me of the Tua and Fitzpatrick situation, in which that was just not handled correctly. Flores is a great coach, but that was back and forth.
I totally agree with that.
So, yeah, they have a good defense, obviously good O-line and good run game, all whatever the hell running back they put in there. Every year they put in like 6 different running backs, and they all are super productive.
Yeah, it's
I think underrated receiver core, but I can't hype up a team that doesn't know who their quarterback is. Because, they're going to start Jimmy. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's going to be – they don't know who their quarterback is. But I do think they could get second or third in the division and make the playoffs. But I've seen a lot of people say that they're going to be like 12-5, 11-6. I personally see more of like a 10-7.
I think I have them at 11 wins, so
Yeah,
that range. But I don't expect them to be like in the NFC Championship or something. I don't know if I can picture that.
All
I
right.
mean, yeah.
Let's go Rams.
rated perfect.
Perfect. I think
I'm
great.
glad that was consensus because I cannot stand when I hear the Rams slander. Matthew Stafford was barely an upgrade from Jared Goff. Really? I don't understand that.
That's just not true.
That's a huge upgrade, in my opinion.
I think that I wouldn't say I necessarily got higher on Matthew Stafford this offseason, but I got much lower on Jared Goff. So now I really do consider it a big upgrade.
I got higher on Matthew Stafford just because, not even just because rankings. Honestly, I actually had him like top 10 at the end of the year, and I don't have him top 10 anymore. But it's not because of that. I'm higher on him going into next year because he's going to better offense.
I agree with that for sure.
Well, I think like if you were to tell me right now that Matt Stafford will be the 8th best quarterback in the NFL by week 6, I could easily.
No, I'm not going to question that. I think he could have an MVP level season. I mean, we all have known that this is a guy that has some really good games throughout the year.
He would have been the MVP in like 2012 or something if he didn't get hurt.
He plays like 3 or 4 times a year. He looks like VP the way he plays.
Yeah.
And if Sean McVay can get him to be that guy on a weekly basis, like, oh my gosh, that's a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
That's a Super Bowl team to me.
100%.
I mean, I have Stafford at 11 right now because I've always been a big Stafford guy. I think could be ranked that high. And I think next year I expect progress. Like, I mean, he becomes top 10. Like he said, maybe number 8, who knows. But defense was clearly the best in the league last year. Lost a few guys. I still think they're going to be a top 5 defense, though. If not top 10, it's going to be a good defense. But they do have a good O-line, great O-line. I am a huge Cam Akers guy. I think he is going to have a great year next year. Even if not,
I will say
if McVay pulls a classic McVay and he goes 50-50 with Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson, it's still going to be a great run game. It's going to piss me off for fantasy if I have Cam Akers, but it's still going to be a good run game. Wide receiver core is top 10. Kupp and Woods very underrated.
Tyler Higbee has his chance now to show up too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I like him for fantasy. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't understand all the people the only people that think the Rams are overrated are people that think Matthew Stafford sucks, and I just don't want to hear that. That's just incorrect. But all right, let's go to the Cardinals.
I'm going to say just right. I'm a huge fan of Kyler Murray. I'm a huge fan of DeAndre Hopkins, but I am not a fan at all of Cliff Kingsbury. And as much as I want to say this team is going to be much improved, I have to go with what my brain is telling me, and that's that Cliff Kingsbury could very well be out by the end of next year. I don't think he's a good coach. I think that this team could very well finish like with a borderline losing record, or he could prove me wrong and he could be the offensive mastermind that he was hired to be. But improved defense, I'll give them that. If Isaiah Simmons and guys like Zaven Collins can make an impact next year, I'll definitely be higher on them. But as of right now, Cliff Kingsbury is a huge red flag for me.
Yeah,
so
I think
I'm actually going to stay a little overrated.
Yeah, I just think a lot of times in the NFL, quarterbacks have like the 3-year rule where you give them 3 years and then you kind of decide like, all right, we're going to roll with them or not. And I think for coaches, it's an even tighter leash. It's like 1 or 2 years, and then it's kind of like, all right, is this the guy or not? And Cliff Kingsbury, this is 2 years. So, I am not a Cliff Kingsbury fan. I'm with Nico. I think that he just, just in one sample size, it doesn't use DeAndre Hopkins right. And it's very saddening as a huge DeAndre Hopkins fan. So, yeah, look, the defense it's gonna be average, maybe slightly below. I think the offense is good enough to kind of outweigh the liabilities on the defense at times, but I don't think it's good enough to be able to contend for the division. That's kind of right. And
I think that Chandler Jones and guys like that are great. I think that they could be a disruptive defense.
Look, they got JJ Watt. They was early in the offseason.
If all goes together, their defense could be great. And Cliff Kingsbury's offensive management maybe doesn't matter as much. But for now, I'm not gonna say that they're clicking on all cylinders defensively, and they have to do that in order to outweigh, the concerns on the offensive side of the ball, coaching wise.
Yep.
The Cardinals are one of the. They're probably the only team I can't form an opinion on them because I just go back and forth and I don't know why. Cliff was a bad coach last year. He's kind of like Drew Lock to me. Like he's got potential there, but I don't know if it's gonna click.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I mean, they picked up Rodney Hudson. I think they improved their O-line a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I don't like the James Conner signing. I don't think their running backs got any better.
No.
But obviously Kyler can just be the running back as he did last year when he was healthy. I mean they were like a top 5 rushing offense last year, and it was solely because of him. So I don't know. It's I don't like the running backs, but it's fine because they got Kyler. Receiving core improved. Obviously they got Rondell Moore, AJ Green, still got D Hop and Fitz and Kirk. They kind of have like a loaded receiving core, but like it just hasn't clicked in my opinion.
It's a lot of like average guys, but it's still loaded.
It's a lot of average. It's a combination of kind of underrated guys and just washed guys.
Yeah,
so
washed and underrated. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interestingly designed wide receiver core, to say the least.
So I mean, I could see them just disappointing because of Cliff.
Yeah.
And I could see them winning like 7 games. I could also see Kyler just popping off, being the MVP, them winning like going to like 11-6. I don't know. I can't decide. I'm like in between. So I'm gonna say rated right though. But what?
I see so much good, but I see so much bad. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
I can't get to 11-6. Honestly, the more I think about it,
yeah, I mean,
I can't sell myself on that because even outside of the conference, remember, this is outside of the conference, not even including the Rams Seahawks, you still have to face, I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. You still have to face the Packers, still got to face the Browns, still got to face the Vikings and the Titans. And like I said, outside of the division, there's a lot.
That was my ceiling that I don't think they're going to get to. But.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know. Yeah, no disclaimer. Doesn't think that, but yeah, I just can't sell myself on 11 wins. I think the absolute peak for me is 10. I think more realistically is 9. I think they got a 9-win team just like last year. Because like I will say, I think the Rams got better. Seahawks, I don't know. We'll talk about them in 1 second.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I got a 9-8 Cardinals record, and I would say rated right. But
look, 9-8 might sneak into the playoffs. No idea how the NFC is gonna shake out this year.
I mean, dude, I make my standings predictions for each division like often, like every few weeks, just for fun. The NFC West, I have the Rams at first, and the other 3 just switch every time I make it.
Exactly.
I make up my mind.
It really just depends on how you're feeling that day. Like it's just a mood. It's a mood that makes decide the standings.
Honestly, you're completely right. When it comes to the NFC West, you're right.
Well, let's go to the Seahawks.
I'm a big Seahawks believer. I think 440 actually knows this. I've been like a big Seahawks believer for like a while. Like I've always thought the Seahawks were good. And honestly, after the Rams kind of went on their little free agency tirade, I remember actually having a debate with 440 about the Seahawks and the Rams. Actually, it was after the Stafford signing. I'm off the Seahawks hype train. Even if I was the only one on the hype train, I'm off of it. I don't really like the Seahawks as a Super Bowl contender. They'll make the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. They'll probably be the 5 seed. Is my guess. The 5 or 6 seed, probably 5 seed. That defense I just don't like it. And the offensive line, they didn't really address it as much as I thought. They got Gabe, I think it's Jackson. I want to say his last name. And I know he came from the Raiders. I know he's good. They didn't do as much as I hoped they would have. You still have holes on the defense you just didn't address. And I think in an offseason where a lot of people were expecting the Seahawks to make moves because it felt like they were kind of like, 2-3 pieces away from contending. And because the Stafford move happened so early in the offseason, before the Super Bowl, you kind of thought, okay, Seahawks, they were runners up in the division. You'd think you're at the tail end of Russell Wilson's, not tail end, but you're nearing you're over the hump of Russell Wilson's prime. This is the time you make a push. DK Metcalf is coming into his prime. You have some defensive pieces on their last years of deals. This is the year you go out and you make a push, and they just didn't. And and to me, that was very surprising, and it kind of takes the wind out of my sails when it comes to the Seahawks. So I'm gonna pull back. But this is just a long and winded out way of me saying that I think the Seahawks are rated just right.
Yeah, no, I think that
11 wins.
I don't really have a change of opinions on them. I will say their draft not good. They got a better receiver in undrafted free agency than they did in the second round. So that was a little funny to me.
Who'd they take in the second?
Dwayne Eskridge. And then they signed
I didn't even watch his tape.
They signed Cade Johnson, who I had higher on my wide receiver big board. So that was funny to me. But yeah, no, I think that they're kind of the same team they were last year. I think Jamal Adams will be better, which will help that defense. I can't see him playing like that 2 years in a row. They got some good pieces on defense. I mean, Bobby Wagner, he's Bobby Wagner. You got
best linebacker in the
Jamal
league.
Adams. You've got Quandre Diggs. I will say it's not great that they lost Shaquille Griffin. That was a big part of their secondary, and that kind of concerns me a little bit because now I'm wondering who's their cornerback, who's that guy that can take on a number one receiver. So that's a bit of a concern to me, but I'll say just right.
And what are you going to do when you're facing DeAndre Hopkins?
Exactly. I think DeAndre Hopkins is going to torch them.
In your own division, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I would say rated right for the most part, but they're another team to me that has kind of a high ceiling and kind of a low floor. Like I could kind of see them kind of like the Cardinals, I think, like getting 7 or 8 wins or 11, 12 wins. That's kind of a high ceiling, but I think their defense will regress a little bit, like we just said with the corners and stuff. The offense, I think they did not improve their O-line, which was their whole issue last year. I don't know what the hell they were thinking there. Hopefully a healthy Chris Carson and a healthy Rashad Penny could help. But, I mean, the offense is still going to be good offense. The defense is kind of the question. I personally don't believe in Pete Carroll. I don't think he's a top 10 coach.
I think he's overrated too, yeah.
I do. So I see them more as
10 coach
around 500, and I think that, like I said, my standings for this division switches a lot, but like I think more than likely it's the Rams at 1, the Niners at 2, and then Cardinals and Seahawks 3 and 4, whatever.
No, I still
near 500.
I still think Seahawks are 2. I think the Cardinals are the most likely to round out the 4. And I think you have the Niners at 3. That's what I've had. I've kind of had that for the entire offseason. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move out of the NFC West then. Let's go to the NFC East. A few controversial teams there. I say we start with the Dallas Cowboys.
Dude, I don't know. I honestly, no clue. every single team in the NFC East, my answer is going to be I don't know because they are all over the place.
Just what I'll say
Except for
though,
the-
I've seen a lot
gonna
of
say.
like Instagram predictions, which by the way, Instagram NFL is terrible.
It's
But
awful.
there's a lot of predictions I've seen.
Almost as bad as Twitter.
I think the consensus for the Cowboys is like around 500, 8 to 10 wins. But I've seen so many like posts on Instagram at them going like 12-5, 11-6. So that's a little crazy to me. I don't see that.
So what's the bar? What are we setting for the Cowboys?
That's one of those things where it's just all over the place. I don't know. I
say
mean, my
9.
prediction for them has been around 500.
I think
9
8
out of
and
8.
9. 8 and 9.
I
Yeah.
think setting the bar for them, to me, is just saying that they will be
Disappointing.
right there with the other three.
Yeah.
Or the other two.
Yeah.
Like, as long as they don't look a step behind Washington and the Giants, I think that they met expectations.
Yeah, like if you're going into week 16 and the Cowboys are still in the conversation to take the division, I think that's kind of a W for them.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
But
and I think that will happen. I think with Dak Prescott healthy for a full year, I kind of blanking on their draft. I know Nico definitely knows it better than I do. I thought they had an okay draft. I think I could be wrong.
I like the
I
Parsons.
mean, they had the right idea. I just didn't love the picks they made. Like, they went all in on defense, and I completely
I thought they
respect
made
that,
the right pick.
and I definitely think that was great for them. I'll give them credit for that. I don't think they made the right picks necessarily, but
I like
they
Michael
have the
Parsons.
right spirit, and they have. I think that they have a good idea of what direction they need to go in order to succeed. So
Yeah.
I think that there are good things going on in Dallas. I think that there should be some optimism, and their offense is going to be great.
Yeah.
Their defense, I think, with the new head coach, could just have a little more fight in them. Last year, they looked lost. I mean, if they can just be a little bit tougher and a little like just care more. Like, they just look careless last year. They look like not enough effort. If they can just suck some life, some energy, some passion into that defense, I think that they can be a good team.
Yeah. I think
I'm gonna say a little underrated, actually.
little underrated.
I think that good things are happening in Dallas. I think that there should be more optimism than just kind of slander and just neutral opinions on them.
Okay. I like that. I'm still gonna stand back at 8 and 9. I still just it's hard for me to put stock in a team that has a lot of uncertainty on defense, and I'm a big defense guy. So
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean,
it could be
I'm
a
going to stick to the
difference
logic that I've been
Yeah,
using this whole
forward.
podcast.
What was that?
I said I'm going to stick to the logic I've been using this whole podcast. Is the defense is more important than the offense to me. I mean, we kind of saw it last year when they went 2-3 with Dak. Defense just lost them games. So, I mean, I expect that offense to be a top 5 offense. It's a great offense. You got the healthy O-line back.
Defense to be better, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think the defense is obviously going to lose them games. I could see anywhere from 8 to 10 wins. I think they'll be right behind Washington, in my opinion.
I mean, just the way I look at it is they made a ton of changes on defense, so I feel like I have to I feel like I have to have a little more hope in their defense this year, considering how many changes they made to it.
I would say they'll go anywhere from like 6 to 9 wins. That's my.
I could see them. I could see them hitting 10. I could.
Yeah, I think they have a higher ceiling than you think. But
I think that their floor. I think they range from like 8 to 11 wins for me. They're kind of like in the Colts range of where I would see. Yeah.
My opinion.
all right, well, let's go into Washington. That's a pretty controversial one. I've seen a lot of people. I don't know. For Washington, there's been a lot of 12-5 predictions. There's been a lot of 7-10. I think I've seen something like that. In my opinion, they're going to have a top 3 defense still, at least top 5. They got significantly better at the wide receiver core. They picked up Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries. That's a lot better than what they had last year. Logan Thomas is still there. The O line is it's pretty underrated. It's in the top half of the league, and I think Gibson's on the come up. So I think they have great spots everywhere except for quarterback. I personally am a Fitzpatrick believer, though.
I love Fitzpatrick.
I like
That's what I was saying. I am a Fitzpatrick believer. I think he's going to be fine. Obviously, that's the weakest part of their team, is what I'm saying, because it's up in the air, it's up in question. But I believe in Fitzpatrick, and I think they could be like 11-6, maybe 10-7.
Yeah, I think that they're the best team in the division, and that's what I think a good amount of people have come to the consensus that they look like a more complete team. There are less question marks than the Cowboys and the Giants. They just seem a little more trustworthy to me. Like, I feel like I can trust them more. And I know there's been a lot of overrated talk about their defense, but I haven't really seen anyone say that like they're gonna disappoint standings wise. So I'm gonna say that they're just right.
Yeah, I'll go with the safe answer. I'll say just right too. Washington, they are what you see.
Exactly.
They're gonna win a lot of like 24-17 games. That's it. Honestly,
I think I would I believe in Washington, but I would still kind of lean towards overrated just because I've seen a lot of
if I were to lean anywhere, it'd be overrated. That's where
there's been a lot of
Yeah.
13-4
Yeah.
predictions I've seen.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see them being anywhere near a contender. I don't think anyone in that division
I
is a
think
contender at all.
I think 10-7, 9-8 is like right where I would put them.
I don't think there's like much of
11
a
wins
ceiling for anyone in that
kind of a
division.
stretch for me. 11 wins would be kind of big.
Yeah.
Because I still don't love their coach. I don't love Ron Rivera.
I
I
do.
like him. I like
I think
him.
he's a borderline top 10
Yeah.
coach.
He's very average.
He's borderline top 10 to me. I think he's a great coach. I
think
mean, he
I think
turned
he elevated
that place. What, they had a top 5 pick the year before. They were supposed to get like 3 or 4 wins, and they make the playoffs. He reminds me of Brian Flores to me. Turned a terrible organization into a playoff team.
Hopefully he doesn't bench Fitzpatrick after being a top 10 quarterback.
Fair.
Honestly, I swear to God, that's the only reason I don't have Brian Flores as a top 10 coach, because he did that. It's the only reason. You don't bench the hot hand.
All right. Let's go to the Giants, though, the last team in the NFC East. I don't want to talk about the Eagles, but I think the Giants are overrated.
Overrated. Next.
Overrated.
Very overrated. I am sick of the Broncos and Giants comparisons. That we were talking about it earlier, but
I compared them, and I stand by it.
every time I see like these comparisons, like talking about the Broncos, and they're like, or the Colts even, like everyone's like,
that's dumb.
You have to use the same logic. Like the Giants have a great defense and they have great receivers, but Daniel Jones is the weak spot. So you have to say it's the same as the Broncos and the Colts. They're going to be no. The Giants have Daniel Jones, who sucks. The offensive line is the worst in the league. You can build your wide receivers all you want. Who, by the way, I think their receiving core is overrated to me. I like Kenny Golladay. He's a top 20 wide receiver, I'd say. He's kind of been overrated in my opinion. Kadarius Toney, I thought he was overrated. Sterling Shepard, like Darius Slayton, no. Like it's not that good. And Evan Ingram sucks. It's not that good of a wide receiver core. Everyone keeps hyping it up, saying he has all these weapons. He's got Saquon. I'll give him that. But I mean, and I'm a huge Saquon fan, but what can he do when they didn't do a damn thing with that offensive line? So I think it's a top 10 defense and a bottom 5 offense still. The offense is still going to suck. They're not going to win more than 7 games, in my opinion. 5 to 7 games.
Ooh. Yeah, no, I think that they could
5 to 7 games. I can't go that low.
That low to you?
I'll say 7 to 9 wins.
Look, no, I love to hate the Giants. It's my favorite pastime. But even 5 to 7 is a little low.
Yeah,
I would say closer to 7. Literally, I wrote down my prediction yesterday. It was 7 and 10.
I think 8 and 9.
Yeah, I mean, pretty close to mine. I just think they have a lower floor than people think, but I do have 7 and 10.
I think their floor is 7 wins. Six wins, I'd say, is their floor. I think same thing as this year. I think 6 wins is their floor. But honestly, the Broncos comparison is a very okay comparison. You have 2 really bad quarterbacks who are normally right next to each other in the rankings. You have 2 bottom half offensive lines. You have 2 teams who have pretty promising weapons, but you have quarterbacks who can't distribute it to them. And you have 2 defenses that reign in the top 10.
I still think the Broncos are a lot better than the Giants, though.
I'm just saying they're comparable. I didn't say anything that's not true.
The Broncos receivers are way better. Like, their weapons are way better, and their O-line is probably 7 to 8 spots better. So
now the Giants have much better coaching, so I will give them that. I think
I do like Joe Judge.
I think he's like borderline top 15. He's good. He's on the rise. He's probably gonna end up being like a top 10 coach if he keeps this up. But I don't know, man. Nothing on that roster really excites me that much. Whereas like the Broncos, like I see the potential. On the Giants, I just besides Saquon, man, like,
and he's a running back and he's coming off an ACL.
I just don't know if there's any aspect of that team that really makes me think, oh yeah, this is the difference maker. This is what's going to get them into contention for the division.
Yeah, at least Cowboys have like a top 5 offense, and Washington has like the top 5 defense. Like,
yeah,
Giants don't.
There's no standout part of their team. Like, nothing really stands out to me. And they just don't have quite the coaching to make up for that. Their coaching is good, but I don't think they have an elite coach that can really just elevate them the way, like a Brian Flores can elevate an average Dolphins roster. I don't think Joe Judge is that guy. I don't think he's that same guy.
You're not that guy, pal.
All right, let's shift over to NFC South, and let's go with the Saints, who I think criminally underrated, one of the most underrated in the league.
Yes, underrated.
Their defense is still a top 10 defense. Their all line is top 5. Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray,
great
top 5 running back. Like, they have a great roster. Sean Payton, we know, who made Teddy Bridgewater look like a top 15 quarterback. Great coaching. I think he can make Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, whatever. I think it'll be Jameis. I think he can make him work. And like I've said this whole podcast, even if he can't, even if he's an average quarterback, that's a 10-win team. I think it's a 10-win team. I think it's a playoff team. I still think they're making the playoffs. I think they're underrated as hell.
I agree. I think that if we're being honest here, let's take a look back. Watch Drew Brees last year. Was he really that good?
No.
And they were in the divisional round. I think Jameis Winston can come in and do the same things as him, and they still got all that talent on that roster. I remember when the offseason started, everyone was saying, oh, they're in a terrible cap situation. How will they get out of this? Well, they did.
Oh my God. People aren't going to realize it. It's all like the 12-year-olds on TikTok. You got to realize the cap space is just like a formality. The amount of times that they just like shift like the guaranteed into like a signing bonus, or they shift it into a it's such a joke. Oh my God, the cap is such a joke. Like, getting out of it is just so easy.
Sean Payton's a great coach. Yeah, I mean, I really agree with all of that. I think that they had a good offseason. They did everything they needed to do. They avoided disaster.
How was the draft?
It was decent. I liked it. They tried to invest in the future of their defense, which I think is good, because I think that they have their future on offense pretty much everywhere besides maybe QB. But, they can worry about that a little later. So I think they made great moves. I really trust everyone in charge of that team. They got a great roster all around. I think Jameis Winston can come in and do what Drew Brees did. So, yeah, underrated. Yeah. I think I could see them making the playoffs for sure.
I think that's a great roster overall, and I think people overrate Drew Brees and underrate the impact that Sean Payton could have on Jameis Winston. I think I literally predicted I've been saying it all year. I think Michael Thomas has a great chance to win Offensive Player of the Year, and everyone's like, "Well, Jameis Winston is his quarterback." Well, I mean, act like Drew Brees was any help to like he was hurt last year, obviously, but even if he wasn't hurt, Drew Brees was not helping him very much winning Offensive Player of the Year. I think Jameis Winston, we saw him stat pad Chris Godwin and Mike Evans
Exactly.
so much. Like,
Yeah, first off, hold on. First
I
off,
see success.
Jameis Winston's going to help out Michael Thomas win Offensive Player of the Year more than Drew Brees would. Second off, you guys definitely convinced me. Honestly, I think the Saints could definitely be a playoff contender.
I did see you make a face when I said that, but we moved you, didn't we?
Yeah, no, because I just definitely got
You were like, what? What?
Yeah, well, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really think about the Saints at all this offseason except for their cap. Like, that's literally it. I don't really care about the Saints all that much. But now, like, I think about it, like, yeah, like, as long as the defense is still top 10, Sean Payton's still under helm, and they can manage Jameis Winston to just be a game manager. And if Michael Thomas is healthy, Kamara's in the backfield, and they can just get back to the old ways of being the New Orleans Saints, then yeah, this can be a 10-win football team, and they can sneak into the playoffs in a weak NFC conference. So yeah, I like it.
All right, well, let's go to I don't think we need to talk about the Bucs. Let's go to the Panthers in that division, though. Another team I think is underrated. I think they're underrated.
I think they're overrated. I mean, who's their quarterback?
Darnold.
Not.
Who?
Sam Darnold. What?
Exactly. Like, I was on the Darnold train at the end of the Super Bowl, and then I talked to Sam Fetterman, and I'm no longer on the Sam Darnold train. He just sucks. He's just bad. He's not
that's a lot different from what we talked about a few months ago.
I know, it's what I'm saying. And
Yeah.
I talked to Sam. PS Power Hour. Little shout out. And Sam just, hit me with all of his advanced analytics and everything, and I just got all no, Sam Darnold blows, and the defense didn't get all that much better. They lost Curtis Samuel. I thought they had a very average offseason overall. And I don't know. I just what do you think the bar is for Carolina?
I mean, there's not a high bar. There's not a high bar because every like power rankings list I see, they're left out of the top 25, which I think is a little absurd.
Yeah.
Okay. If it's left out of the top 25, then yeah, I guess I'll go a little underrated. But I thought they would be like an 8-win team, and if their bar is
that's what I classify as underrated because I've seen people 4 to 6 wins, and I think they can contend with the Saints.
I think they're a 6 or 7-win team.
I would lean.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'd say 7 or 8, but
it's Sam Darnold.
I don't really have much of an opinion on Sam Darnold. I think if I would lean,
the biggest things are defense, quarterback, and coach.
They have the youngest roster in the league. I love Joe Brady. I love Matt Rule. Maybe they can help progress Sam Darnold. I don't know. I'm not a big Darnold guy. I never really have. I've kind of been always in the middle, but if I had to lean somewhere, I was like, I don't think he's that good of a quarterback, but he does have a great situation. He's a pretty decent O-line. Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, a very good receiving core, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and they picked up Terrace Marshall. Very young defense, all of them are young and up and coming. Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin. I think I like every part of that team except for the quarterback. And I'm going to stick to the same logic I have been all podcasts. I think they can near 500. And so when I see them outside of the top 25 as like back there with the Falcons and the Jaguars, and like I'm like, I think they're better than that. So okay. I'd say underrated.
They're underrated, but
yeah, I'm gonna say they're a little underrated. But here's my thing. I just don't think they're there yet. I think they're a few years away. I like what they're doing. They're just not built to win right now. And I really wish they had taken Justin Fields in the draft because I would be so excited for this team right now. J.C. Horn was a good pick. Don't get me wrong. They had a good draft. But I think Justin Fields would have made such a big difference to the outlook of that team. I'm not a big Sam Darnold fan. I don't think he's good. But, he does get Robbie Anderson back. I don't know, man. I just say not yet. I'm not in on them yet.
Even
say,
with
like,
my limited
win
knowledge
this
of
year.
college football, I think the J.C. Horn pick really just said, like, okay, we are not ready to win now. We're just
Yeah,
gonna,
no, I can see that. And but I just think they had Justin Fields in their lap, man.
I would have much rather seen Justin Fields go there than Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Easily.
I don't know. I think
Speaking of Chicago, let's go to the Bears.
Rated right, they're projected to be bad and they're going to be bad.
I think they've been projected to be pretty decent.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen the best I've seen them predicted is 9-8.
Okay, overrated.
The worst I've seen them predicted though, I've seen people put them at like 3-14.
They're
like bad.
6-win football team.
They are I don't know, man.
Vikings.
They're tough.
A tricky team. The Bears are
tough.
such a tricky team because
they improved their O-line. Tevin Jenkins, it's a little bit better than last year.
Great
I've always thought Montgomery was a little bit overrated, but he's still solid. He's still top 20. Robin Mooney is a pretty decent wide receiver core. I don't think Dalton is going to last too long. It's going to be Fields. So a lot of it depends on, hey, how's Fields going to do? The defense is still good. I think they're a near 500 team. I could see 7, 8, maybe 9 is definitely their ceiling, but I would say 7 and 10, 8 and 9.
Okay, I just counted 13 losses. Rams.
I guess I'm gonna have to Google the schedule.
Rams, Browns, Packers, Bucks, Niners, Steelers, Ravens, Cardinals, Packers, Vikings, Seahawks, Vikings. That's 13 losses. They're not better than any of those 13 teams. They're just not.
All right, I'm gonna revise my 8-9, and I'm gonna go 6-11.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna say overrated in that case. Yeah, I think.
I think they're.
Both of you.
Obviously, I didn't see the schedule.
I'm the king of NFL.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I still think they're a little bit underrated because I think their schedule is going to make them look worse than they actually are.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
Yeah. Nagy's an idiot. I think Nagy might be gone after this year, but I still think they're a team that has barely made the playoffs every year with terrible quarterback play, terrible O-line. They've hung on the playoffs. I think the schedule is going to ruin that streak of hanging on they're the 7 seed. So they're going to be a 6-win team, maybe 7. But I think they're going to be better than their record shows.
Yeah, I think they're good. I think they had a great offseason. I really like that they were able to somehow keep A-Rob back when it felt so obvious that his foot was out of the door, and somehow now here he is.
Yeah.
And you give him a chance. And I love getting Justin Fields because now this is your chance to convince him to stay next. You can build something special between them. And
I really thought
I like their ideas, but it's not there for me yet. And that's the problem is I don't think this is a team of the future. I think that they have a lot of guys in their prime right now. So I'm not really sure what their goal is.
I don't think they do either.
I think in 2 to 3 years they're going to have a top 3 pick in the league. They'll be bad.
I don't see the future, and I'm not sure how much I see for them right now. Justin Fields is the future.
Justin Fields is the future, but they don't. The rest of the guys are out the door soon.
Everyone else is in their prime right now. So I just don't know what they're trying to do.
Yeah,
they're making good moves, but they don't really have this system that I can kind of picture working. If that makes sense.
I agree. Okay. Last team, the Minnesota Vikings. I think they've gotten a lot of hype this offseason, but what do you guys think?
Underrated. Still underrated. Still, even with all the hype, I still think they're underrated. I still think they're a good team, and especially if Aaron Rodgers just decides he doesn't want to go to Green Bay, I think the door is open for the division for them, honestly. I feel like we've had a few recurring, themes of the podcast, one of which being, it's a team that had A lot of missing pieces on defense last year that are coming back, but this team, honestly, they do have a lot of players coming back from injury on the defensive side. This is going to be another tough fight. Like, people forget they had the best offense in the NFL when it comes to yards per game last year. And I think they could do it again this year too. And hopefully some of those yards turn into points too. Kirk Cousins isn't going to go out there and win you football games, but he's going to be able to go out there and just throw for a ton of yards, be efficient, and throw for a few touchdowns every game. So I think the Vikings are an 11-win football team. I like the offense. The defense was top 10 just a year ago, and I don't think that's too far out of the question this year either. So we'll have to see what happens with them. But look, I'm all in on the Vikings this year. Not for a Super Bowl, but for a playoff spot.
I really like the Vikings this year. And to be honest, there's a part of me that can picture them in that NFC Championship game. That might sound a little
Wow.
crazy, but there's a part of me that can
over the Rams and the Bucks, or one of them.
I could see something. I could see something happening there.
Bold. That is bold.
I do think the Rams and Bucks are better, but who knows? The Vikings could rise and one of them could fall for some reason. I think that they have a great roster all around. They get Danielle Hunter back, who in my opinion is still like a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. They've got some nice guys on defense. Obviously love Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, Cam Dantzler's on the rise. Great offense, great improvements to the offensive line. Dalvin Cook is great. They've got everything to me. They're a really complete team.
Yeah.
Solid coach Mike Zimmer. Yeah, I could really see them surprising a lot of people this year.
What makes them good to me is that they're good at every level. So you have a good running back, you have a good quarterback, you have good receivers, and I like Irv Smith a lot. And the defensive side, you got Danielle Hunter, you got Eric Hendricks, you got Harrison Smith, you got Cam Dantzler on the way up. Like, you have a guy at every level. And
Dalvin Tomlinson too. That was a good signing.
Dalvin Tomlinson too. Really good pickup from the Giants. I think they're one of the teams, one of the rare teams in the NFL where like they have
no weaknesses.
Dare I say like a top 20 player at every position. And I don't think there's a lot of teams that can say that. Maybe top 20 is a stretch, but like I think you know what I'm saying. Like, they don't
I get what you.
Yeah.
They have all the personnel to succeed.
100% agree. But it seems like they do every year. And then, shit just hits the fan somehow. But hopefully this year, it looks like they can.
That's what I would say. I would say their last year was kind of a fluke year. They had a bad defense, they had a lot of injuries. I think they're gonna go back to what they were the years before that, were division round losses,
I can see that.
whatever. But I mean, I do think they can win that division. I do think they can win it even if Rodgers is there. I don't think he will be, but even if he is, I think they can win that division. I'm not saying underrated though, because I have heard a lot of Vikings hype, and I'm on the same page. So I'd say rated right. I think 11-6 is a pretty good prediction. Maybe 12-5, high ceiling. But yeah, like you guys said, I think the Dalvin Tomlinson signing was super underrated. That's gonna help a ton with Danielle Hunter. The defense was the problem last year. They sucked. And they're getting all these injured guys back. Cam Dantzler, I'm a huge fan of Cam Dantzler. We already talked about that. But Zimmer has been a guy that's been like on the hot seat. And I think that was just because of last year. I think it wasn't his fault. It was the defense.
Zimmer's still a really
I like him as a coach. I don't think he's on. I mean, if they underperform, he is on the hot seat, but I don't think they will. I think they'll be fine. He's going to be fine. I like the Vikings this year.
Me too.
All right. Well, that's all the teams I had. Tailgate is complaining that he needs to go to bed right now.
Yep, in 5 hours.
So we're going to let Tailgate get to bed. Thank you, Nico, for coming on.
Thank you for
Everyone go follow Elite Takes.
Please go follow him. Get him to 100K. It's ridiculous, but go get him to 100K. That's crazy.
Thank you, man.
Oh, my God.
All right. Everyone go follow Tailgate 440.
You don't have to
Elite
follow
Takes.
440.
All platforms.
Follow me and Nico. It's fine.
Don't follow Tailgate, though, yeah. I don't know why I said that. Tailgate posts like once a week,
Look,
so
look,
you don't
that
need to
was
follow him
during the
anywhere.
off season. I'm back on the grind now.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. All right. All right.
See you guys.
See ya.